I'm not biased. That doesn't say thank you, Kessel, up there. We'll get to that in a minute. Hi, and welcome to Hawkeye's Weekly Sports Review. I'm Brian. This is Dan the Man. And what's new this week, Dan?
Well, there's been a lot of stuff happening this week, especially in baseball. There's been a few major signings and a few major players avoiding arbitration.
What's the deal with Carl Pavano?
Well, Carl Pavano somehow managed to rupture his spleen while shoveling snow in his driveway.
I'm sure teams across the league love that.
I'm sure. Let's make that a statement.
Now it's time for the NHL picks of the week. Unfortunately, we do not have our other NHL analyst, Carl, with us today. But I really want to take a look at 4 games. Right now, we have 3 on the board, and we're just going to go one by one. First, since we're New Englanders, is Boston versus Buffalo. Now, first of all, you think of some of the lines. The first line for Buffalo, they're always a consistent line. The fourth line for Boston is starting to heat up now. But the first thing that I really want to take a look at is the goaltending. You got Ryan Miller, who is consistently an amazing goalie. He's strong in the crease, and he's an aggressive goaltender. Then you have Tuukka Rask. Youth, finesse, and he moves great laterally. Sure, we've seen a couple of things this season that didn't look that great. You know, you'd see things that Thomas could do that Rask didn't do this year and some of last year and maybe even the year before that. However, we do see qualities in Tuukka Rask that we didn't always see with Tim Thomas. He's young, he's a bigger guy, so he covers more space in the crease, and I believe that he's quicker. But that's just how you look at it. So let's go to our first guy for his pick. Jack, who do you pick?
Well, let's look at Boston for a second. First of all, Boston has been firing on all cylinders since they first started the season. Their goaltending's been great, and all their lines have been outstanding. So I'm going to go with the Bruins. Dan?
Okay, I'm gonna basically use some of the same reasons that Brian and Jack used, and I'm gonna pick Boston just because they are really fun to watch play and they have a really good record right now. You?
All right, guys, I think y'all know where I'm going to go with this one. I may sound biased. I may not think what you guys want. However, I have to take Boston on this one. And the reason why being Boston is undefeated at home this season. And when you think of it, Buffalo has lost 2 games to Carolina. However, they've only played 2 games. But however, they did lose both games, and I think they could have won at least one of those games. Like I said, Ryan Miller being such a strong, consistently well-playing goaltender, it should have been able to play in Buffalo's favor in one of those games if they were lucky. 2. However, it didn't, but I do think it will be a very close game. It'll be a tight game, may even go into overtime and possibly even a shootout, because it will be a defensive and a goaltending battle. I gotta run real quick. How about you guys take this next game?
Okay. Now for me, Toronto, I'm not really sure about Toronto. I'm not really sold on them yet, even though they've looked very strong so far. However, the Capitals, I believe, they have more depth than Toronto. They have Ovechkin and Semin, and their goaltending is pretty good too. So I'm gonna go with the Capitals.
Okay, so I have made my pick because I believe that Washington has a lot more depth than Toronto, and they have a lot more going for them. So I'm just gonna go Washington on this one. Okay, and how about the Islanders versus New Jersey? Jack?
Well, the Islanders look pretty good so far. What I've seen, they're a very young team, so they're not they're not as good as they could be if they had better players. But they have young players, and they're going to keep getting better and better. However, the Devils are a very, very good team too. They made it playoffs the past couple of years. They have a lot of star players like Kovalchuk and their goalie. I can't remember his name, but I'm gonna go with the Devils for this one.
Okay, so I pick the Islanders actually because they seem like they're pretty hot right now. They have a little bit of confidence going into this. So I think that is going to be what pushes them ahead, even though they are two very close teams. Okay.
Pardon the interruption. I'm not advertising or promoting anybody here. All right, picks. Washington and Toronto. Now, that might seem like a bit of a gimme in Washington's favor. However, if any of you really watched Washington's play for the first couple of games of the season, they were a rusty team. They were kind of hyped up after, the way they played in Boston in the playoffs last season, and everybody was expecting Ovechkin to have a breakout season, as if he hasn't had 1,000 of those. Everybody expected him to get a goal in his first couple of games. It took him 4 or 5 games to get that first goal on a one-timer. However, that one win that they did get over Buffalo, coincidentally enough, I think it really kind of boosted their morale in a sense that they have the confidence to get over a hump or two. So I feel like they can really, take on Toronto and give them what for. But don't count Toronto out just yet, despite the words "Thank you, Kessel" on this board with the exclamation point. I love Tyler Seguin. He's awesome. Toronto, they have finesse and they have good play where it counts. Their goaltending, it needs improvement. However, they are a crafty team, and they did give the Bruins a little bit of a struggle last season. Even though Boston did get the better of them, they're a semi-good team. I believe that in the next few seasons, if they make a few good trades, maybe some good draft picks, let some guys go, and build off of the team that they already have, guys like Kessel, I believe that Toronto can be a good team. However, Washington has been slumping this season, so I'm going to go with Washington in this game. Now, the Islanders and the Devils. This is an interesting game because the Devils forced a shootout, and it took the Bruins 3 periods. We almost didn't score. Hetberg almost shut us out at home. However, we did propel to 4-0 at home, which, that's one of the reasons that leads me to believe that we will beat Buffalo tonight. But if you watched and really paid close attention to the Bruins-Islanders game, the Islanders did really more or less outplay Boston throughout the first 2 periods of play. We really started to click in the third period. But that's something that doesn't necessarily worry me about the Bruins. It's what gives me faith in New York. I'm not surprised that Dan went with New York. However, I'm not surprised that Dan went with New Jersey. Because despite the fact that New Jersey's goaltending tandem is getting up there in age between Brodeur and Hetberg, they do have a very solid goaltending duo. Brodeur obviously being the winningest goaltender in the history of the NHL. But never count out Hetberg. I do think that because Brodeur got the night off, he will start against the Islanders. But do not count them out. They can hold off the most potent offenses, as you saw in the Bruins game. Despite Keith Aucoin only getting 2 goals, I shouldn't say only getting 2 goals. However, those were the only 2 goals that the Islanders scored in this game. Despite that, I'm going to go with New Jersey in this game. And the last game we have is Pittsburgh and the Rangers. I think that or the Bruins-Sabres game will be the game of the week, possibly even the games of the month, with these 2 teams facing off. Now, what you see with these two teams is the depth on both of these teams is absolutely amazing. You've got Sid the Kid and the leading scorer of last season, Evgeny Malkin, for the Penguins. However, King Henry, Rick Nash, Marion Gaborik, the big three in New York right now, do not count those three out. They will always make for a good game. They can drag it out. They can play physical. They can do anything they have to, anything and everything that they will to win. Now, when you think about it, it can be a goaltending battle sometimes. In the playoffs last season against the Flyers, I believe Fleury's goals against average was not goals against. His save percentage was under 900. It was .885 or 887, I believe. So, the Pens and the Flyers, they're both really high-flying offenses. But they're two tough defenses. Anyway, back to the Pens and Rangers. The Rangers are probably one of the better shot-blocking teams in the NHL this year and last season, and probably the team with the most depth all around, on paper and on the ice, where it counts, when it counts, how it counts. I take New York in this game. Jack, what do you say?
Well, I think that the Penguins and the Rangers are very equal in their centers, forwards, and wing. But the thing that's going to put me over the top for New York is Henrik Lundqvist, and that's why I'm going with New York.
Okay. I'm actually gonna have a different opinion than Brian and Jack. I'm actually gonna go with Pittsburgh on this one because Crosby's accuracy and just his shot speed can get past that defense, and I really believe in that kid. And I just believe in the entire defense of Pittsburgh, and I think they're a really good team. So I think while New York is a very good team, I think Pittsburgh is going to get past them and beat them. So yeah.
Back to football. This makes no sense, though, because it's the Super Bowl, and the new phrase right now is thanks, Mama Harbaugh. First time in the history of the NFL that we have two brothers coaching against each other in the Super Bowl, and what better matchup to see than John Harbaugh and his Ravens and Jim Harbaugh and his hard-nosed 49ers. Now, first thing that comes to mind, maybe to some not, is the Colin Kaepernick story. Call me crazy, but I see a bit of Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe in that, even though Drew Bledsoe really didn't have a chance to play again. Yeah. Alex Smith, perfectly good quarterback, putting up the numbers, doing everything Jim Harbaugh wanted. Granted, Colin Kaepernick did sit out and hold a clipboard all of last season. So he didn't know what he could do. Now, Alex Smith goes down. In comes the golden boy Colin Kaepernick. Plays an amazing game, plays the rest of the season, and he is just a phenomenal quarterback. He can pass, he can throw the long ball, he can throw a ball right into a tight spot where you think the receiver or Colin Kaepernick couldn't get it. Just when you count the kid out, he's there, the receiver's there, and they have a first down. He can run. Look at what he did against Atlanta. I felt bad. I still think Atlanta should have won that game, leading 17-0 at the half. But, stuff happens. And then you look at the defense. The Smiths are just playing on an amazing caliber. It's almost scary in a sense. Jim Harbaugh has them playing probably the best football I've seen all season. Granted, Tom Brady was in the running for the MVP, so was Peyton Manning and the Broncos. So was Adrian Peterson for carrying the Vikings on his back, but we'll save that for later. And of course, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, they had a decent season. And then they lost miserably in San Francisco. But San Francisco, hands down, playing the best football I've seen in the last couple of seasons. Last season, I think that was a fluky game. They were kept out of the Super Bowl by a couple of fumbles. So, say what you will. I think the 49ers are the best in the league. Then you look at John Harbaugh's Ravens. You still think defensive battle. Ray Lewis, league veteran, one of the best defensive players I think I've ever seen. I'm going to make it short and sweet here because I know Jack's getting Nancy to get up on the board and make his pick here. But Joe Flacco's heated up just at the right time. He's kind of proving to us now that he is one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. However, you're going to want to hate me for this. Some will, some won't. Hate me, love me. You can't live without me on Hawkeye. I really don't know what I'm going to do on the Super Bowl. So that's an unmentionable for now. Jack, over to you.
All right, I'm going to start with the 49ers here. Now, obviously, Colin Kaepernick is an outstanding quarterback. He can run, he can throw, as Brian mentioned. And he has some good receivers. He has his Pro Bowl tight end, Vernon Davis, Michael Crabtree, and Randy Moss. But I want to look at the other side of the ball. I want to look at the defense. Now, the 49ers defense, everyone knows that the Ravens have a fantastic defense. But to me, they're getting old. Ray Lewis is retiring. Ed Reed's getting old. The only real guy they have left is Terrell Suggs, and he's a great linebacker. But the 49ers have an outstanding defense. I think they're better than the Ravens. So the four players that I want to watch are Justin Smith and Aldon Smith, as well as Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis. And I'm going to start with the two Smiths. Justin Smith is an excellent pass rusher. He can get past any offensive lineman and get to the quarterback, which I think is going to make Joe Flacco agitated a little bit. And then Aldon Smith does the exact same thing, except he's faster and he rushes off. He goes for the dual edge. For the other side. Now, Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis are some of the best linebackers that I've ever seen. Patrick Willis is, I'm going to compare him to Ray Lewis, and he's just a hard-working player, and he makes the game for the 49ers. And Navarro Bowman, only just getting his start this year, has proven he can play in the NFL. Now, with the Ravens, I think everyone tosses out the word elite with Joe Flacco. He's a great quarterback. He's shown me that he can take on excellent teams in the NFL, like the Broncos and the Patriots, and he can win. But I'm not sold that he's an elite quarterback yet. He's an outstanding quarterback. He's not in the likes of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers yet. He's got to keep working on that. And the Ravens' offense is also very good. They have Anquan Bolden and Ray Rice. And obviously the Ravens' defense is very good. I'm going to call them the number 2 behind the 49ers. But I think the 49ers are going to come out on top here.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Ravens right now. I think that the Ravens have some of the best defense in the entire NFL. Ray Lewis is one of the most passionate players across all sports. That's not arguable. And he's, as Brian said, one of the best defensive men I've ever seen in my life. And the rest of the line can do some wonders too. It's not just Ray Lewis playing defense for the Ravens. And on offense, Joe Flacco, as Jack said, he is not quite elite yet, but he's still an amazing quarterback. He's made some passes on right when it counts, on like the third down. And the Ravens have beaten a lot of teams a couple teams that they really should not have beaten this playoffs. Like the Broncos, they should have never won that game. They were in Denver, where the Broncos have had so much success this year. And then the Patriots, it's the Patriots. They have one of the best offenses in the entire NFL, if not the best. And so I think that they can work some miracles and do some wonders for their team. Meanwhile, the 49ers, I've been watching them, and during that Falcons game the other week, they pretty much came from behind. They surprised me. I thought the Falcons were going to win that. They were winning basically the entire game, and then the 49ers came from behind and won it. And so I think that they are also pretty elite team with some pretty good wide receivers. I mean, Randy Moss may not be the best. He may not have the best personality, but he's pretty solid. And, you know, Kaepernick, pretty awesome quarterback. He can get stuff done. He's shown throughout the season that he can get stuff done. So, but I do think that the Ravens are going to win this one. Because I just think that Flacco can get it done on offense and Ray Lewis can get it done on defense. And Ray Lewis really wants this game. And you know Ray Lewis, when he's passionate, he can do wonders. So that's my pick.
Nice, Dan. I'm going to take over here real quick. Like I said, I'm still kind of undecided here on the Super Bowl, which way I'm going to go. But I just want to say one more thing real quick. And it's about Colin Kaepernick and Randy Moss. Randy Moss is suited up for every 49ers game this season. He hasn't touched the ball as much as Colin Kaepernick's other wide receivers, or even as the running back Frank Gore, who, might I add, is an amazing running back. He's very tough. He's hard to bring down, and quite frankly, if he wants to, he will just run you right over. With that being said, I do feel that whoever has the bigger game between Ray Lewis and Randy Moss will determine who wins that game. And I say this because throughout the season by a lot of people, Randy Moss has been talked down in the sense that he's getting older. His game's not progressing. It's more or less staying where it is. And soon enough, it's really just going to start to decline. However, he's still got a little bit of spring in his step. I'm not saying he's what he was when he played for the Patriots in 2007. We all know that probably will never, ever be done again. And if it does, we even probably won't be around to see it. But with that being said, I think Randy Moss will come up big for the 49ers. He will have a good game. Even if he's used as a decoy, you know, he can still be seen as a vertical threat. I mean, look what he did in New England in December, the week after we manhandled the Houston Texans. He's still a vertical threat. And like I said, Colin Kaepernick, he can throw the deep ball. And I mentioned Colin Kaepernick again in this conversation because not only is he fast, he's a big kid, he can throw the ball so precisely you don't expect the receiver to catch it. You wouldn't even expect him to want to throw the ball to where he does throw it. But he's tough. He's tough, he's big, he's strong, he's poised. One of the better secondary quarterbacks I've ever seen. Obviously, Tom Brady, in my opinion, is the best. No bias. I mean, don't hate. He's one of the best. With that being said, if I had to lean towards any team in the Super Bowl, I think I'd lean towards the Ravens. Now, Jack's giving me the look. Why the hell would you do that? I picked the Ravens because, don't get me wrong, Jim Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in the league today and will probably be one of the better coaches in the league for years to come. However, for Baltimore's secondary and their entire defense to shut down that potent offense that the Patriots had, granted, we didn't have Rob Gronkowski in that game. He's always an X factor, whatever, whoever, whenever, wherever we play. We could play Buffalo at home. He'd still be an X factor. Play Jacksonville on the road, still an X factor. Play the Chiefs, still an X factor. We didn't have Gronkowski in the game against Baltimore. Huge X factor. Great blocker, even better at receiving. But that forearm, we just, we hope for a fast, good recovery for him for this next season. And we hope he comes back ready to go. As I was saying about Baltimore's defense, for Baltimore to shut down our defense like that, that was probably one of the better defenses I've seen. Better coached game for Baltimore than I've seen. Think about that Baltimore Chargers game. Converted on
Did Ray Rice up the middle.
Converted on 4th and 29. Phillip Rivers and his boys need help.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all for this week. You know where I stand. I think I'm going to go Baltimore with Dan the Man. And I think Jack's the lone wolf on this one, picking the 49ers. If only we had our other guys, Carl and John, with us this week. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it. Hopefully, they'll be here next week to do this review with us. But we hope you liked it. And if you have any picks, questions, comments, opinions, feel free to post a status on Hawkeye Sports. And if you haven't done that, at least give us a couple of likes, show us some love. Have a good weekend, guys.